Hey, Brandon,
Hey, Alan.
and welcome to Dice Over Everything, the Miniatures Gaming Podcast.
So I was not on the last podcast, if people listened to it, with
Yep.
you talking about robots. But I got the impression you think that Epic 30K is going to be the greatest game ever because you can just have like 233 guys in one box, and you can just paint this giant legion.
God.
And
Yeah, that's the exact opposite of what I was saying. But
I
yes.
definitely listened to the podcast. I couldn't have gotten it wrong without having listened.
Yeah. I'll just say BattleTech is pretty cool. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Having fewer dudes on the board so you can actually
Yeah.
get the game going is definitely a good thing, and one reason why we like Frostgrave as opposed to giant games that come with 233 guys in the box, despite how impressive that may sound.
Yep. I totally agree. And so that is the signal to talk about or introduce the topic for today, which is Frostgrave 101, The Enchanter.
Yeah, so this one's really close to me because I've been looking to build an Enchanter for like halfway through our last campaign. I bought the miniatures back then, so I've been revving to go on building an Enchanter. So I think this one's gonna hopefully be interesting to other people too.
Yes, I think Enchanter, there's so many cool things with the Enchanter, and it's definitely up there in terms of my favorites. At least the spells in the Enchanter.
Oh yeah.
Definitely have some really, really hot spells.
Mhm.
And so, if you listen to any of our other breakdowns of wizard schools, you will know we will basically go through all of the different spells of the Enchanter and give them a rating. So from S tier down to I think it's
F.
D, F. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
F, F.
Yeah, we went all the
Get
way
it out of
down.
there. Yeah. And then we'll go and talk about other spells that you might want to pair with that. So an example kind of wizard loadout for when
Hmm.
you're starting. And then overall a rating of the Enchanter.
Yeah, and then maybe some
So,
sample starting war bands and what you might build towards
yes.
if we have
All
time.
right. So,
To the Enchanter
what do you want to
spells.
start? Yeah, I guess we should just start off. All
Yep.
right.
All right,
So,
to the top of the alphabet with
all
A.
right. I got my book right here. Second edition Frostgrave.
Mm-hmm.
And I will start at the very top. Animate Construct. So this is an out-of-game spell with a rating of, what do you call it? Is it TN, right? Of 10?
Mm-hmm.
What does that stand for? I'm having a
Mm,
brain seizure or something. Something
something
number. Target number.
Target number.
Target
Yes, yes.
number. With a target number of 10. Yeah, so basically what this does is it allows you to create a small, medium, or large construct to fill in as a soldier. However, large constructs do count as specialist soldiers.
Mm-hmm. So
So, what do you think?
the first thing that comes to mind is how spoiled I am from having bears. Because bears, unlike the large constructs, don't take up a
Yes.
specialist soldier slot, and
And
they're
bears are
Mhm.
arguably better than large constructs.
Yeah. So on that first comparison, like, oh, this is like second tier quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
So, what would you rate it as?
I would go. It's not untakeable. It's
Uh-huh.
close though, but I would just give it a C. It's really close to being not so usable.
Yeah, I
Because
would
constructs are just
say,
not that powerful, are they?
yeah, they're not that powerful. I agree. There's some benefits too. So I will say I will probably give it a C, bordering on B,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what supplements you use,
Yeah.
because
And once you
they're
start
yeah.
seeing the strength of all the other spells here, you're like, oh, it's so far below the other ones that even maybe if it would
Okay,
have,
fine. It's a C.
yeah,
It's a C. So the thing is, well, it could be a B if you go all in, but you're probably not creating the strongest construct, enchanter. That's the issue.
No.
But so the strengths, I don't want to rag on it too much, because if you look at the stats of the large, medium, and small constructs, they're basically slower, but they have pretty heavy armor.
Mm-hmm.
But like we talked about before, speed is a really big deal in this game, right? Although
Yep.
technically you can just leap them if you need to get the large ones into combat, and they start off. But when you compare them, like a large construct is kind of like a worse knight,
Yep.
basically. But they do have one benefit that knights and these kind of people don't have. Well, first of all, is when you use anime construct, you don't have to pay for them. So you can get a knight-like or I guess
Mm-hmm.
a medium construct is similar to a slower, what do you call them? Man-at-arms, right? It's like a man-at-arms, but
Mm-hmm.
it's slower.
Yep.
But, yep.
So because it has a casting of 10, basically you're saying that early in the game you could see some decent use for this to sort of, if you put all
Yeah.
your money in on, say, shooting units, you could get some okay combat units out of
Yeah, you
just
could basically get
animating them.
man-at-arms
Mm-hmm.
and for free, and they can still pick up treasure and things like that.
Yeah.
They do also have one benefit that the other guys don't have, like normal soldiers don't have, is they don't get wounded.
Mm-hmm.
So that does allow them, especially with their armor, to stay in the fight longer, right? So if they're down to their last 4 health, they will still act fully tough, right? And then the small
Mm-hmm.
construct is like a thug, but it's actually the same speed as a thug.
Yeah.
So
So I guess you could play them more aggressively because you just haven't paid your money for them either. So you could be more willing to just throw them in and lose them. But then again, they're not very fast. So
yeah. And then the
mm,
coolest obvious reason why you would do animate construct is because you can model the crap out of your warband, and then you just have an army of constructs, which is very, very cool.
yeah, when, I would give it a B, but because of that, but it's
Yeah.
technically based on the
Modeling
spell, not the
potential
modeling.
is
Hmm.
like mwah. And that's why I'd say like the B. So they did create, Joseph McCullough does have one of the new books. I think it's called Fireheart, that gives a whole bunch of cool upgrades for your constructs. However, before you think, oh, this might help constructs compete, they can only have one of these buffs, and they can't hold any weapons or any armor or things like that. So they're
Hmm.
basically, the Fireheart just allows you to have your constructs have magical weapons, basically.
Yeah.
But then if you have a normal guy, normal soldier, they'll just hold a magical weapon and they'll be fine, right?
Hmm. And we'll get into how they
So
do.
so yeah, so it's really just generally for coolness and to avoid getting wounded. But your warband will be a lot slower, so you probably need to put in things to allow them to actually still perform and get on the table. And
Hmm.
then on top of that, you could be affected by the next spell we're going to talk about.
Highly unlikely, but sure.
That's true. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But so overall, anime construct C, unless you're gonna go for really cool, in which case you should go all in. And one of the cool things about anime construct, unlike control animal, is
Hmm.
that you can fill your entire warband with constructs, which is cool. So you can replace every one of your models with a construct.
You probably wouldn't, but we'll get into that
You
later.
probably wouldn't. You probably keep a couple of guys to use your awesome magical items. And if you don't use the special book, there is actually, I think, one item in the main book that does, or one or two things that do allow you to buff a construct to make them better. So they
Hmm.
do get one magical item to allow them. I think one is literally +1 fight and magical, and then I think they have one that makes them faster.
Yeah,
So
that could be useful.
yep. Oh, actually, can you use both? In the main rulebook, you can actually use both, I believe. So technically, if you use both, you might be able to get decent guys, but I still don't think they're better than the normal guys. Because I think one of the potions is a speed potion
Hmm.
that doesn't count as
An item, or
uh, yes.
that's kind of a weird thing. Because I mean,
Oh,
you
it's
could. Mhm.
yeah. What's it called? Potion of healing. Should have looked this up, or put a bookmark of this. Construct oil.
Hmm.
15. Yeah.
So that's the one that lets them go faster?
Gives them permanently one move, yeah. Which allows them to basically be like a knight.
So by permanently, you mean like across games?
Yes, across games. So you can get them to get up to the speed of a knight, and then you could be like, oh, well, it's kind of like a knight with worse will, but that also technically has, I think it has more life. So, and then if you give them the construct hammer, which is, oh, it's +1 damage and magic weapon. So you can't even get +1 fight. So actually, it's a trade-off. But it's literally, that means you're trying to outfit your constructs. You're looking for 2 different items that you have to use to buff it. Whereas a knight can go for like the armor, right? A ring of what do you call it? Armor. You could also have just heavy armor, right? Magical heavy armor, or you could have
potions of invisibility.
+1 fight,
you could have
or +2 damage as the magical weapon. So lots of different things. So in my opinion, I feel like the knight is just generally still kind of better, but it's fun to have constructs, and there's an argument that they're at least different. So. All right. So the next one that we've been hinting on is control construct, which is the line of sight with the TN of 12 target number, now that I remembered. And basically, this is like one of the many control spells in the game, but it works on constructs. So if a construct fails the will roll against the casting roll of your cast, with a minimum of 14, then you gain control of the construct, which, like, permanently. They can't get it back, right? You have to dispel the spell to get it back.
Yep.
Or take control of it using control construct, right? So if you have an army full of constructs and someone just finds a control construct tome, they can learn that, and now your best guy that you buffed with that construct oil and that hammer is asking to get taken control of.
That is a liability, yeah.
All right, so what do you think about this spell?
So I think it's not just situational based on your opponent having the making constructs, which is just kind of a jerk move. But if you're playing like a set of scenarios where constructs appear all the time, then you can just get constructs in the game. Like Maze of Malcor has constructs appear on a fairly regular basis, especially in the first few missions. So I think just based on the missions you're playing, you might actually want to take this thing.
So what would you rate it as?
C, because constructs only appear
very,
in like
very
Maze of Malcor.
situational. Basically, yeah, unless you're playing Maze of Malcor where there's a lot of constructs.
Yep.
And there might be some more in other missions, right? There's just not as many constructs as there are. They're like probably the most you'll see is animals, and then the second most you'll see is undead, right?
Yeah.
And then so constructs and demons, they're both not that common. So, by the way, I did want to say, looking at the stats of the the large construct, if you do buff it with the +1 speed, it actually is pretty, and the hammer, it actually is pretty good because it's already strong. I didn't realize. I forgot that it's strong.
You have to roll for those, and they just have to like fall into your lap.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you do, it becomes stronger than a knight because it's, I just want to say this, so I don't want to bash it too much, right? So if you're going all in for the lulz, movement 4, fight 4, armor 13, so like a knight, will 0, health 14. It's a construct. It's large, which means that you can shoot it better, but it does have 13 armor. And then it's strong as well. So it is pretty cool.
How is the medium though? Because the medium doesn't take up your specialist slots, which are really valuable.
Yes, medium is move 5, fight 3, armor 12, health 12, will 0, construct. So it's actually,
so that compares pretty favorably towards the infantrymen and the man-at-arms, just because it's free, just on the free. Only early game. If you need,
if you buff it with the movement, it becomes like a man-at-arms but with worse will. But at the same time, it doesn't get wounded. So it's free for sure. But then a man-at-arms can get better weapon. To me, it's just the large construct getting strong, I forgot about that. That actually does mean if you buff it, it actually is more dangerous.
Yeah.
And it has 2 more life. Maybe go all out, get that thing buffed. So I still think anime construct is probably C.
Yeah.
But just saying, I want to give it its due.
All right. Do we get into the real meat of the
real
spells?
Stuff? All right. Embed Enchantment. This is a TN of 14, another out of game spell, and basically if you have cast enchant armor or enchant weapon onto something, and we'll get to what those things are. During a game, at the end of the game, you can try to cast embed enchantment after the game to permanently make that piece of equipment and a magical weapon or armor. Mm-hmm. That is either +1 fight or +1 armor. What do you think about this spell?
I don't know. I started with the other ones. Do you want to start with this one, or
You know what? The fact that we just mentioned those two, maybe it makes sense. We'll talk about it. We'll rate it afterwards because you kind of have to understand.
We'll come back to it, because it relies on those other two spells. Sure.
All right. The next one then is Enchant Armor. Mm-hmm. This costs has a TN of 8, line of sight, and you cast it on someone wearing armor, and that armor becomes magic and gains +1 armor for the rest of the game. What do you think about this spell?
So I think it's a good spell, but the thing is, because of that embed enchantment spell that we'll get back to, and because enchant weapon exists as well, I feel like it's not as good as enchant weapon, and you kind of have to choose between one or the other. Well, you don't have to. Don't have to. So you would almost sort of keep one possibly out of game, then do the other in game. Mm-hmm. So it just seems like if you were to do one, because I would rank it one step below, I think it wouldn't be the one that I keep going if you were to embed. But I see this as like a secondary thing that if you want to like aim for higher armor guys like the knights in that.
For sure.
If you want to go for this build. So I would say you don't always go that build direction of going high armor. But it gives you this avenue of going for a really high armor build and then pushing them to the next level. And it's only a TN of 8. So it's pretty easy to get started with.
Yep. And so, especially if you already have magical weapons on all your guys, then being able to you can't cast enchant armor on a non-magical armor. So it has to be someone who doesn't have that cast, and then you can turn it into magic, so they get both buffs. They both have the magical weapon that they started with, and then they also have the magical armor. Mm-hmm. So I would give it an A. I think that this is a solid, great spell, and if you're taking shield as well, and you also have enchant armor, and you can max out your knights.
And you're going to have man-at-arms. You may just go the man-at-arms direction. Or, sorry. The infantrymen have two-handed weapons. Yeah. But your man-at-arms have 12 armor. So pushing them up to 13 is...
Is 15 the max or 16?
I think
for some reason I had in my head... No, 14 is not the max. It might actually just be 15.
Okay.
All right. Through the magic of... recording, you can see us actually looking at this book and trying to figure it out because there's no way I'm editing this.
Yeah, I know it works on knights. I'm just trying to think if it can go even higher. Yeah, it definitely works on
knights. I'm pretty sure you can give it plus. What's the maximum stats? For arm stat. The maximum stats for armor.
Oh, it's somewhere early on in the book, I believe, with your stats. I don't want to say that my computer will slow down too much if I open this and start scrolling through, but it will. And I also don't want to be scrolling through.
You don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we will find it probably in the future, and not now.
Yeah, just my recollection.
Or ever, because once I stop looking, I'm not going to look anymore.
Yeah, I just seem to recall that I thought about building
15. Maximum armor is 15.
Yeah, okay.
So actually, if you so technically with armor, you actually want to cast it on the Templar. Shield and +1 armor on a Templar makes them 15.
Well,
So
armor
that
they have armor 12, right?
Yep.
The Templar. Yeah.
Yep. So shield is +2, and then cast armor on them, they become 15.
Yes. Oh, you're talking about the shield spell versus the
yes.
sword, the shield in the profiles. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. So if you want to do that, it's just overall a good spell, and the fact that it's so low ability, like so low TN to cast, you're never really buffing this, and you could even take these from other things. But of course, when you're taking the Enchanter, right, we're looking at it mainly from being the Enchanter. Great spell. I think it's A, and the only reason probably it's you need to cast it on guys that matter. So
yeah, it depends if you want to go the build of like high armor, but maybe you don't.
Yeah.
All right.
Although if you're and you can't cast it on constructs, by the way, because they don't wear armor. They're just innately a block of wood or something like that. So you can't put it on constructs. All right. Another reason why knights can be better. All right. The next one, enchant weapon, TN 8, and this is the one we talked about. Line of sight. When you cast on someone's weapon, they get +1 fight. So if it's a close combat weapon, +1 fight. If you cast it on a bow, it gets +1 shoot. But because you're shooting arrows, the actual shots don't become magic. Whereas when you're doing on a magical close combat weapon, the actual attacks are magic.
Yep.
But you can cast enchant weapon onto specific bolts. So you can, even if you have an archer who has a magic bow, you can cast enchant arrow to give it another +1 to shoot, but only for the next one shot, which is quite cool. What do you think about this spell?
Oh, I think it's amazing. Like getting extra fight. Fight is what defends you against getting shot. Like, well, no, it's only using the weapon, but like being better at winning fights is amazing. So, and combined with if you can keep it. Oh, well, the other big part of it is it being magic. Like early in the game, getting magic weapons is incredibly hard. Like I got super lucky, and eventually by the end of how long was Maze of Malcor? 10 missions or 12?
12. That's
12?
why. In general, after 12 missions, you will fill up your guys with magical weapons.
I don't know.
But you got them really early.
Oh, I got them really early, and I just started. Yeah. No one wanted to. Well, the person who was controlling all the like
undead. Yeah.
The undead was like, I'm just gonna stay away from you because if I go near you, whack, they'll be dead immediately.
One of the great things about a lot of the undead creatures, the strong undead creatures, is they're immune to non-magical weapons. So you need magical weapons to make it. In fact, one of the first missions in the main book is wraiths appear who are around treasures, and they are all immune to non-magical weapons. So if you don't have some magical way or magic, right? So you can cast magic on them too. If you don't have some magical way to deal with them, you just can't kill these monsters. No, you can still win combats and push them away and run away with the treasure, but you won't be able to kill them. So it's very, very useful to have magical weapons, especially in a lot of the campaigns where the last boss is a magical guy. Like one of the most popular campaigns is partially because it's one of the first ones is Thaw the Lich Lord. And the Lich Lord, surprise, surprise, he's magic.
Yeah, and like if you are using...
he's undead and immune to non-magic.
Yeah, and if you are using the store in the game, like magic weapons worth 300, 400 easily. So this, like, doing this, you cast it, and you have the equivalent of like a 300 point or gold bonus on a dude. That's enormous. Like, that's how valuable its level is in this game. Good. So it's would I put that to S tier? No, honestly, because I don't feel like it would like break people. You're not just going to break someone's army using this. It's just a really, really solid buff. So I put it at A.
I would say this is S tier.
Yeah.
I would give it S tier. This is one, in my opinion, probably the most in the second edition, probably the most taken spell in the game, not just by the enchanter, but
Mm-hmm.
because it's so low casting cost
Yeah.
and because it's so utility in dealing with magical guys, a lot of people will just take, and we've already mentioned it before, right? A lot of people will take enchant weapon just to be able to deal with, even if you cast it on a 12, you want that in your back pocket just so you can deal with if a vampire shows up or if a wraith shows up, more likely, right?
Yeah,
Then
the
the wraith just doesn't constantly harass you while you're trying to push it away so it doesn't actually kill you.
I only wanted to give 4 spells in the whole game S tier, so I'm going to hold back on this one, but it's close.
Fair enough.
And I feel like if you're building an enchanter, this is better than enchant armor, because just winning the fight. Oh, well, that's nice. You have more armor.
You only wanted 4 spells. Okay. If you're talking about, so to me it's S tier, but if you're talking about only 4 spells in S tier, maybe it doesn't make it.
Okay.
But it is like right behind then. It's A plus then.
Maybe we'll come back at the end with a summary of like, okay, what are the S tiers in this game?
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna give them all S's, and then we'll come back and we'll talk. We'll say which one the real top 4 S tiers are. All right. Next one.
Or going back. Do we want to go back?
Is embed enchantment. So we already mentioned this now. So we've already said what enchant armor, enchant weapon do. Embed enchantment turns those into real items, and you already said what the crux of that is, why this is such a good spell.
Yeah, because otherwise you got to roll it up randomly, or if you're playing with the store, you have to pay a full 300 plus gold to get this. And also, once it's embedded, it's as if you just got extra castings of spells. Like it's like you got a bunch of extra castings of enchant armor or enchant weapon
when you start
before you play the game. So if you've given them out to 4 of your guys, it's as if you've cast 4 spells for free that you want before the game even starts. Like you're 2 turns ahead of pure successes on your opponent.
Every time you cast it successfully, it is 14, and I almost wouldn't necessarily reduce it, but it is 14. But every time you cast it, that's like gaining 300 at a minimum, gaining 300 whatever plus gold, right? Yeah. So that's amazing for a spell out of game that you can do. So what would you rate this then?
This is A, but only because there's so many other spells you want to take in this. So it's only A. It's not what creates the amazing effect. It just reinforces how good enchant weapon I see is.
Yeah, I give it a B. Because there's so many other spells you kind of want to take. It does give you a huge boost when you actually get it, which makes it very strong. So, and technically, I guess for an enchanter is the only one you generally really want to do it.
Well, yeah, because otherwise you won't, because you can only take if it's not your school, you can't start off with the enchant weapon or enchant armor and the embed enchantment.
Exactly. So, and then it'll be like 16 or something like that. But with an enchanter, maybe it is. You could there is a good argument you could say that it's an A. But because it's so tied to enchant weapon, like if you're doing an animate construct thing, it's like kind of a dead thing, right?
Yeah, then you're going niche. Like that's not the thing. There's just I guess the argument is the enchanter has so many other good spells that you're really going all in on this if you do that. But the other spells are utility spells, and you might just be able to find your utilities elsewhere. So I feel like if you're an enchanter, you have to double down on just blinging out all your weapons, or otherwise you're not doing
definitely a campaign. This one can really spiral up or get spiral out of control for your opponents, because you can just get so much treasure over them. It's like getting another treasure every single time you cast
good treasure.
So you know what? Fine, it's an A. It's an A.
This is what I'm hoping goes off when I play Enchanter, and everyone just cries.
I'm changing my thing. You've convinced me.
All my weapons.
All right.
And the war band I'm building just has weapons with like runes on them. They're already blinged out in preparation.
Yeah, so you will basically cast a 14, and if you fail, you can technically try to cast the other one. I think maybe there should have been a limit where you can only cast it on one item each, and if you fail, you can't. But if you have one enchant weapon, you could cast embed enchantment, and also the guy with the enchant armor has to be active at the end of the game.
Okay.
So if he ran off the table, I don't think it counts.
Mm.
But that's not too hard to have one guy still on the table, right? Who has it?
It's the guy fighting, so he's probably
You
got
could
the
even
weapon.
just enchant it on your wizard or something.
Of course.
I
Ooh,
guess
so
technically,
good.
if you're playing until you run off, you cannot cast embed enchantment then. You have to be the guy who ends the table, who stays on the table.
Interesting.
In that case, I think maybe it's B.
Hmm.
Or
We've
you
never.
can both, you know,
Hmm.
decide to end the game. Like if you both decide to end the game, then sure.
Mm-hmm.
Or you do the whole thing where you just say at the end of turn 8 or 10, you say it's over, then he would be there. But if you don't have any weird shenanigans like that, then yeah, I guess it would be an A. All right, next spell, Grenade. It is a TN of 10, line of sight. So you choose a spot within 14 inches, weird kind of number,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone within 1.5 inches of that point, including your allies, takes a +3 magic shooting attack. And the shot counts from where the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for cover. So what do you think about the spell?
Disgustingly good.
Yep. The spell is
It's
so freaking good. You don't even need line of sight, right? Like Fireball,
mm-hmm.
Fireball, you need line of sight, and you hit that guy, and then it spreads out from around there.
Yep.
But Grenade, you can just hit. If they're hiding behind a wall, you can choose a point that you see, and then and as long as they're within 1.5, they still get hit. Plus, you could put it in a spot where it gets around cover and things like that. So, and 1.5 means that if your opponent has guys within 3 inches,
Mm-hmm.
right, of each other, you can hit multiple guys. So this happens a lot. Like let's say they ganged up and beat up one of your guys,
Yep.
and then that guy disappeared because they beat him up. Then you
Mm-hmm.
throw a grenade afterwards, and they're all clumped together. Everyone that ganged up takes that +3 shoot
Yeah, because normally you don't want to
magic
throw one of your guys
without
out
cover in
there
general.
to roadblock them because he's definitely dead. I mean,
Yeah,
you can sometimes roadblock guys to protect your own dudes, but in this case, now your opponent's just afraid of ganging up to beat your one little like thief that runs at them with a
yeah.
knife. They're like, shit, no, we don't want to. We don't
And
want to team
14
up on
inches
you.
is really long,
Yeah,
so you can shoot. That's almost as long as a fireball. So,
and
and
it's
because you don't even need line of sight, right? Because you can shoot around corners. You can line it up where you don't necessarily, you aren't
as vulnerable.
uh, as vulnerable as you are with fireball, where
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes you have to move out from areas to shoot them, right? This
Yep.
allows you to hit guys without being as threatening because you just have to choose a point you see.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
what now it is +3 and fireball is +5.
they're both
Uh,
magic. Magic is
but
always excellent.
grenade is also TN10 versus the fireball, which is 12. So how would you rate grenade?
Just straight up A, easily A.
Okay, I like this is another S to me. This spell is ridiculous. It's so
Hmm.
strong, and it can be used outside of enchanters as well. This is yeah.
So my question of what would make it S or not is: do you think it's better than we keep calling it Fireball, but Elemental Ball?
Uh,
Do you think it's better than Elemental Ball?
Sometimes, yeah. In some ways, you don't have to reduce it at all. If you're
Yeah,
enchanter, you just keep it at 10.
I know, but
That's like
just
two levels.
let's say you were in a different class. Let's say from the perspective of being in a different class, which one's better?
Grenade. You don't have to
Huh?
reduce it. Reduce
Yeah,
it less.
because you're more likely to be in a different class and be thinking,
Yeah.
okay, what's the spell I want from another, like, say
Yep.
your complementary
If
school? You would
if
say,
you are yeah, if you are if elementalist is paired with you, then
mm-hmm,
maybe you can take elemental ball because it's 12. That means that if you're off school, if you're just neutral, it's 16. That means to make it usable, you have to reduce it by like 4 times or
well,
something like that.
well, I'm just thinking like three other wizards have it like as a neutral school.
Yep. So for
So,
them, maybe you
mhm.
use elemental ball.
Oh,
right?
so you okay?
But depends on what you want. But you still have to
I don't
use
know.
levels for that. Whereas Enchanter, then it goes to 12, right?
Yeah.
The grenade goes to 12. You might reduce it once, maybe, per
Yeah,
grenade.
it's super reliable. Yeah.
Yep. And the reason why I think this is almost certainly S tier is because we have a list of spells that we nerfed, and it for us when we played,
Yep.
and grenade was one of them.
Yeah.
We didn't nerf elemental ball. We
Mm-hmm.
nerfed grenade. We reduced the range to 12, which is actually a big nerf, right?
Mm-hmm.
And elemental ball, I think we're overall fine with it. So to me, even though elemental ball hits harder, and I do think elemental ball is really strong, I think grenade is stronger. Even though it doesn't do as much damage, but it's really good at finishing people off, attacking things, doing high damage, right? Or you can just chuck 2 grenades because you have your apprentice and then your wizard and stuff like that. It is so strong and so versatile. It's more versatile than elemental ball. That's the thing. I think it is higher than elemental ball.
Yeah, I'm almost willing to figure that as well, just from the perspective of having different schools. All right, I'll let this one be one of the S's. Oh, man, I have to go back and figure out which ones I've given an S. We'll see.
we'll figure it out afterwards.
I'm writing them down now. I've got the printout going.
It's okay. We have
we'll
if we need to, we have recordings of this, so you can go and listen back to all of them. You can listen back at like 5 times speed or something. All right. Next one is strength. So this is TN10 line of sight, and the target gets +2 fight. And one of the great things about this is you don't have to cast it on an item, so you could cast it on your constructs. You could make super strong constructs.
Or your bears. That was fun for the last campaign.
Yes.
I played as a witch who was just like, what do you do? Oh, I don't use witch spells. I just cast strength on everybody. Why are you a witch? I don't know. To get the bears.
So, strength. Very straightforward, like enchant weapon, but it doesn't make them magic. And it does cost 2 more TN to get. But +2 fight is a huge swing.
Oh, yeah.
So, how would you rate this?
Oh, easily A. This was my go-to in the last campaign, just because I took guys with like high fight values, like +4 fight dudes, and then just or even non.
Yeah, because you had 2 bears, so strength for that specific build is better to strength your bears as opposed to enchant weapon, because you can't enchant weapon a bear.
And I went heavy on infantrymen who already have like extra damage from their 2-handed weapons and fight 3.
Yeah,
you push them to fight 5, and they're getting the +2
just
damage.
Don't lose combat. Yeah, the big thing with the infantrymen is that they only have 10 life, but if they never lose combat, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, just don't lose. Just get dice that roll high,
many times.
And you'll just smash everyone in one hit with your basic troops. And strength makes it. But strength makes that happen. You need good dice and strength.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think this is A. I'd say overall it's worse than enchant weapon because enchant weapon is just more versatile. But obviously +2 fight is better than +1 fight.
Yeah, but you may not have to but one you have to cast in game, and one you might already get going on without.
Yep.
With the enchanted.
And the other thing with the strength is, but you can also cast strength on a guy with in enchant weapon. So this is one of those like, what 2 great tastes like go together, right? Why not both, right?
Yep.
You can totally do enchant weapon and strength on the same guy, so he has +3 overall, very strong.
Yeah, and also this one helps you dodge stuff as well, whereas your weapon doesn't help you dodge things.
No, it does.
So, okay. That's right. It's a magic weapon. Just gives you plus basic fight. So, yep.
All right. A solid.
Solid A.
The last one, another banger, honestly.
Yeah, if you were allowed to give out 8 S tiers, I know you'd give this S tier, but that's why I had to restrict it.
All right. So telekinesis is TN10 and line of sight.
And within
basically, if you are within 16 inches of a treasure token, you cast it on it, except for the central treasure, and so it has to be on the ground, right? Not in someone's hand. Then you can move it up to 6 inches in any direction as long as you can maintain that view. So as long as you have a straight line view straight to the treasure within 16 inches, or if you're above, like you can just drag it 6 inches in a direct line. What do you think about this spell?
So all the previous spells we've been talking about up till now were all about just like increasing the size of your beat stick, whereas we now get to your utility spell. So this is huge utility too. Like Frostgrave is getting treasure. You win, and you progress in the campaign by getting the treasure. And this is just making things so much easier to get the treasure. Like your opponent having to fight closer to your battle lines, where it's just easier for you to get your guys to pile in.
Yep.
It puts you at such a huge advantage that I don't know. This is amazing.
So what would you rate it?
Because I restricted the number of S tiers, I'm just giving it a very solid A.
Yeah, I'd say so too. I had it listed as S tier, but fine. I guess technically this could drop to A. And there's a reason why I would drop it to A versus I think this was definitely S tier in the first edition.
Yeah.
There's more than just the 16 inches. So it has a limit of 16 inches, which matters, right? Because before it was 24 inches before. That's the maximum range you can see because of the blizzards and snow. But the thing with telekinesis is that you can't cast it on the central treasure, which is a big deal, right? Yeah. But it's still very strong, right? A guy can run up next to it and they're fighting, and then you, or like with another guy, and you can just drag the treasure 6 inches, right? So that he can't get it. So if a guy runs up and bases it, right, he's faster than you, just drag it 6 inches, and then they have to come again to pick it up, right? It's a great move. But the negatives that I would say make it slightly worse is it doesn't work on any of the special treasures, right? Where there's not an actual treasure token. And if you look at a lot of the newer missions, there's a lot more missions now where the treasure is not just a treasure lying on the ground.
Oh, you have to interact with something and then it becomes treasure?
Yes, exactly. Right? And so it still works if a guy got killed and drops a treasure, then you can drag it from it. But there's a lot more missions and a lot more things, even in some of the new base missions, where the treasure's not lying in the ground, where telekinesis doesn't necessarily work as well. And again, you need full line of sight. Before, TK would just make it float above terrain, so you didn't even have to worry about that. So there's a lot of negatives. It's still a very good spell, still A, but I'd say it probably is not actually S in the new version, just because it's toned down a lot. Oh, and it also used to be 8, and now it's 10. So there's so many negatives that, you know what? I've convinced myself it's actually only A tier, as opposed to its former S.
Okay.
All right, so those are all of the spells. Now we go to the 3 different schools that are allied with it, which are Elementalist, which you were just talking about, Sigilist, and Witch. So what would you take for the Elementalist? What are some good spells with Elementalist?
Ooh, so honestly, because the Enchanter has so many good spells, you might not end up taking Grenade, which then to get your also grenade-like spell, you may just go Elemental Ball.
It's 14. Yep. So, and you can try and reduce it a little bit just to make it usable when you get levels.
Yeah, and the other one that stands out is Wall, because we've talked about Wall before on that podcast.
Did we say it was S? We said that was S, right?
Oh, yeah, it's S. Like, let's say you TK'd something, and then you put a wall in front of it, and your opponent's
actually nerfed Wall, too.
What? How do they even get to that treasure anymore?
So we didn't nerf Elemental Ball. We nerfed Wall. It has to be fully... Did we say it? Oh, no. We only nerfed it a little bit. We nerfed it so that it has to start testing for going away at the end of, or at the beginning of the turn after it's cast, instead of before it was, for some reason, got a full 2 turns, unlike all the other ones.
Yeah, could you just make it like Fog and reduce the number of things to remember?
Yep. Yeah, I think it might even need a bigger nerf on top of that. So I'd say Wall, great spell, yeah, for sure, great utility.
Yeah. Did you have any beyond those 2? Like, those just stand out so much, but...
Yes. Elemental Hammer. because Elemental Hammer. So
Synergy.
generally, when you buff it's the same kind of principle of buffing a guy up to make them super awesome, right? So Elemental Hammer, basically, if you buff a guy with +3 fight, like enchant weapon and strength, and then you give them Elemental Hammer, they're just going. Elemental Hammer gives 5 more damage that goes straight through, right?
Yep.
So no, it doesn't go straight through. If you beat their armor, then you do extra 5 damage, which means with the +3 fight you already have, if you're putting on it, like you said, an infantryman, and you cast an Elemental Hammer, they will just like chop a giant monster in 2 with like 1 strike. So that can be fun.
I'm just trying to figure out how you make somebody invisible. I don't know if you can get that spell with this, but just having someone invisible with all that on them, just
invisibility is harder. But yes,
yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's
you could make that build where
you still have to win the fight. You still have to win the fight, but it's pretty crazy when you slash a guy like that.
Well, you just start walking that guy slowly towards their wizard and be like, all right, there's a countdown on. And you're like, if you can make him invisible,
yes,
I have to look at how you get that. I didn't think of that till now.
All right. So the next one is Sigilist. Sigilist has a lot of good spells too.
Yeah.
What would you say for this one?
So this comes down that I see these as complementary spells. Like Sigilist has some good complementary stuff. So my first go-to would be Absorb Knowledge, because you don't even have to cast it during the game to get its advantage. Sure. You're just like, I've got lots of other things to do in this game, but I can get just bonus XP off of this freebie.
Sure.
And the other one, more out of game, Right Scroll. That if you've got
Right Scroll's better. Because Embed Enchantment, we just said that one of the problems it has is its high casting. Yep. If you Right Scroll Embed Enchantment, you can auto cast it. Plus, there might be a lot of utility spells that you might want to take that are hard to cast, and you can just Right Scroll that spell, and then you can cast it more easily.
Yeah, if you decide to go for some like neutral group spells that were hard to cast, you're like, no, I can actually get these like neutral spells off reliably because I've got this pack of this pack of scrolls going on.
This is so strong.
Yeah. It's just
so many good ones.
It's a great complementary spell that you don't have to like use your time up in the game doing.
I would also say this stuff depends on how you make your guy. But all of these are good. Explosive Rune is just a good anti, like you can only place them around your wizard.
Yeah.
But it for a 12 for casting Explosive Rune, where you place something within 4, and then if a guy moves within 2 of it or 1 of it, it explodes, and everything within 2 inch takes a hit. So generally, you wouldn't take Explosive Rune or Push or Furious Quill necessarily. These are all like good spells to supplement your attacking, right, of things, because they're spells you cast on enemies, right? If you take Grenade or Elemental Ball, you probably won't take any of these because those are like your go-to whenever you see someone. But if you are doing something where you decide not to take those are all really good spells. Push just pushes the guy away a lot. It's a +10 shoot attack. And then you get pushed the difference in armor instead of taking damage. And that can really keep people like even a Wraith. It can push the Wraith away. You don't have to beat it. Furious Quill is just a really good spell to mess people up. And just to stop people. It also reduces their fight by 2. So if you want to do that like super fight guy, right, then you might want to take Furious Quill to reduce the guy he's fighting lower, so you can just chop his head off, right, with previous support. So that's one of the things, right? So I think from those, I would probably take Furious Quill. Again, just because you're buffing guys a lot with fight, with Enchanter, and then Furious Quill is a nice pairing with that, because also when you cast it on a guy, they don't test until their turn.
Yeah,
so you can cast it.
Yeah. Maybe unlike you, I just like hitting the same button over and over in the game, and I'm like, all these other spells should just be out of game, so I can just keep pushing the win button. Anyways.
Fair. So I would choose out of all of those. Okay, I might be saying that I love Sigilist a lot. My last wizard was Sigilist. But if I had to choose just two, it would be Furious Quill and Right Scroll.
Interesting. So we go for two different ones. Oh, we both.
No, Right Scroll's the same. Right Scroll I said is amazing. Right Scroll's my number one, and then Furious Quill is my number two.
Okay. All right.
Now on to Witch, which is another of our favorites.
Yeah, I played Witch for the last round, and I think that might have influenced me on this to take like different spells, because maybe I just went too hard on the Witch spells, and I'm now like bored of them.
Sure.
So my preference is going to the out of game thing again, just to be like, no, like I told you, I just want to keep pushing the same button in the game, is to go for Brew Potion.
Yeah.
Because you just
get some. True. You can attempt to brew the construct oil.
Ooh. I didn't think of that one. But yeah, there you go. That's how you can make that build work. Yes.
If you were going all out animate construct, you would definitely do brew potion so you can get the construct oils.
Yeah, it's only on a 12+2, so it's not out of the realm of possibility at all.
Yeah.
And just if you want your wizard to have a bunch of potions, just like before late game when you have your whole stash, it's always just nice to have a bunch of potions around for utility.
More money. This is a money guy, but your thought was money, wasn't it? You're like, oh, I'm gonna take embed enchantment and brew potion and just get a giant stack of cash.
Oh yeah, you can start selling them later too. Yeah, once you just loaded your guys up so far, you just start selling them for cash.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're gonna do with the cash, because you have.
Which is only worth 25 gold, but
what are you even gonna do with the cash once you guys already have magical weapons anyways? Like, I don't know. just brag of how much cash you have.
Whenever anything good comes out of the shop, you can deck out your base, just bling it out with every single kind of thing.
You don't even use them. You're just like, I don't even have that ability.
I can't even. If I ever am able to cast a demon, I have a demon summoning circle. But we'll see if I can get that. Oh, you can buy tomes. Every tome that comes up, just buy it.
Anyhow. And the other more obvious one is Fog, which I didn't play with the Witch last time, I think because I'd used it so many times in other builds, because it's only an 8. So you're at 8+2. It is also
10.
super solid.
Yeah.
So if you decide not to go as heavy on the shooting route and you just want people to have to come close to you and walk through that fog into the range of your like buffed up dudes, amazing.
Yes. I would say Fog was my number one. I think Brew Potion is a good idea for sure. I didn't really think about that for your animate construct thing. And the other one that I thought was great was Curse. So Curse is like Furious Quill, right? So I wouldn't take Furious Quill and Curse, but Curse gives them a -2 to all their rolls, right? When you curse someone. So again, if you have a guy that's super good at slashing a guy's head off in one strike, you curse them, they have -2 to their rolls. You're much more likely to win that fight and chop a guy's head off.
Yeah. You don't feel to take like a mediocre man-at-arms with a few buffs on it. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Those are the two that I would probably choose. All right. So now, what would you go for outside for neutral schools?
All right. So looking at the Soothsayer first, I would say Wizard Eye, because Wizard Eye is just easy to cast on an 8.
So you can grenade people crazily.
Do some crazy grenade stuff to people. You just hide in the back, and then you enchant your guys in the front row as they've like left your sight. You're like, oh, you're out of sight. I don't care. I'm just gonna keep doing that thing, even though they're running up the board.
Yeah.
It's just.
It's great utility for sure. Keeping your wizard safe is very important.
It's easy to cast too. Keeps your wizard safe. I think it's pretty easy one to choose. All right. So you'd agreed on that one. Going over to the Thaumaturge, Blinding Light, like Blinding Light.
True. Same kind of thing.
Easy
to
cast.
They do get to test. Yeah, they do get to test for will, but it makes their fight 0 if they get hit by it, which again helps your guy chop the guy's head off.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard fight.
I'd be super into that one.
They can roll a 20 and you still beat them.
Yeah. So on the note of keeping your wizard safe too, the Illusionist has Beauty, and this is just like you don't care if it has a high roll of 10+4. You want to roll high to make the test value hard for them to just be able to attack you. So if you're trying to keep yourself well protected, beauty's good too. If you want to play a bit more aggressively with your wizard and go up the board, maybe you go that route. And I don't know. I'm just basically renaming all the good spells out there. Like
all right,
leap.
let me go for my three. My three that I would choose.
Okay.
I guess you only choose two. So one, and these are specific to the other spells that you have. So the first one is leap. I think that is actually one of the best ones.
Yeah, I was just listing everything I would consider, but I think that's going to be the same list for literally every wizard almost that has them.
So the thing with leap, because Enchanter is about buffing guys up,
yep,
you want to get those guys into close combat, right?
Mm.
And you basically want to fire those guys off as missiles. So because you can't have things that speed them up like the Chronomancer, just throwing them with leap, launching them 10 extra inches right next to a guy when your guy has like 7 fight or something like that is really scary for them.
Yeah.
So I would say leap is a really good thing. The other one is raise zombie, because this is just useful to pick up treasures and keep guys on the table.
It's just a bonus. Kill. It's just a bonus, dude.
Yeah, you're leaping guys and throwing them for it. You can kind of see the way I would play an Enchanter is just buff guys up crazy, throw them forward, and then have your guys like your raise zombies, going and picking them up afterwards. And then the last one I would choose is combat awareness, because I would say even though it's high to cast, you would, if you have right scroll combat awareness, and then you put that on guys to continue to make things super buffed, to make your guys like +5, right, off the bat with another +1 armor. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. On the note of just throwing really good guys at them, I would almost be inclined to take like Bones of the Earth to just grab the dude, and he doesn't even have the choice to run away now, like as much. He's gonna have to win a fight to get away.
And I'd rather just throw my super good guy with leap behind them, and then say, "I'll try and escape now." He's gonna have to throw guys in, and as your guy just chops one guy at a time.
Yeah, but then this way you get to bring all your guys in at once, and he's just there versus sending one guy at him and he has friends. It's now he's stuck there.
No, you leap one guy and then you leap the next guy. Yeah, okay. Keep on leaping them. That's why you need the zombies to go and pick up the treasures, because you're just leaping your guys forward as spells to attack them. So the one, so that is my thought. Those are my three things that I would consider. I'd probably do leap and raise zombie, but I like the idea of combining right scroll with combat awareness to make guys even like crazier.
Yeah.
To super buff your Templar. So leap and combat awareness might be another thing to do. All right. So do you want me to do my build first? Or do you want to do your build first?
All right. First.
This is my Enchanter build. I've already kind of revealed what I wanted to do, right, with it. So I would take Strength, Enchant Weapon, Embed Enchantment.
Okay, I don't have to freak out. I was going to freak out if you didn't say Embed Enchantment.
Yes,
Good.
So you get a whole bunch of things. And the Embed Enchantment is so they start off with a magical weapon. So if you have too many, you can literally start selling them off. But before that means you already, like you said, start off with that spell cast. And then if they already have an enchanted weapon, there's just like one less thing you have to worry about, right? When you're playing, right? And +1 fight is generally one of the things you want to give, like often the best weapon you want to give for guys, right?
I can't argue, but I just, like I said, I overplayed Strength in our last campaign, so.
Sure. Then I would take right scroll for the specific thing I said, right? So you can right scroll embed enchantment.
Yep.
And then I would take wall for elementalist. Or and with witch curse, or I would take elemental hammer with fog.
Ooh.
So one of those.
Whoa. All right, I want to see what your shooting attack is then. Let's keep going.
Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot that one.
Well, you've kind of run out of schools.
That's right.
Well, we're not
That's
saying
what.
you could take a neutral school one, but you have to be willing to like bring its value down. I'm not saying you can't do
No,
this.
forget it. No, curse. I was just going to use curse.
Okay.
But you're right. It's probably better to do elemental ball, right scroll, and fog as the three. So you have your elemental ball as your backup.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would take leap and combat awareness to make my guy super strong.
Okay.
So leap again to super rough. Now here's the thing. This does have weaknesses, but we'll get to that afterwards. But that is what I would do. And my idea would be if they don't have the weaknesses that I mentioned before, if you're playing someone who can't do that, you just super buff a guy and leap him through, and then you super buff the next guy and leap him into it, and then you run up and grab the treasures, or you have the guys who are leaping. So you just leap guys into their treasure guys and just chop them in half.
Yeah, that's how I played last campaign. I got bears, then I gave them strength, and then they leapt at people, and I'm like, oh, if the bear dies, it dies. I'm a witch. I'll get another one.
Exactly.
All right. It's horrific.
So what would you do? What was your go for it?
All right. So
this is going to be possibly your actual wizard because you're planning on doing this guy the next campaign.
Yep. So I kept talking up enchant weapon. So obviously like got enchant weapon, embed enchantment. After that, I want to go TK because I just want the treasure to be nice and close where the guys just walk in to get just beaten on.
Sure.
So those are the three spells.
What was it? So you didn't even mention embed enchantment? Because you're like, obviously, we already.
Well, no, I said that. Enchant weapon with embed enchantment. They're like a combination. They're part of each other. Then the exact same thing with the sigillus. Just write that scroll, so you're guaranteed to have some stuff happen in the game onto the witch for the fog, because yet again, you want people to just have to walk into your lines and suffer. And then elementalist, because I didn't take grenade in school, so elemental ball. Sure, it's only on 14, but you start writing those scrolls, and people you're just gonna be like, oh yeah, you don't think you're gonna get fireballed? You're getting fireballed, and just when you say that, they're gonna be like, oh, I'll just back off. You don't even have to use the scroll. You can just say That's
true. You can just save it. Just the threat. True.
You get a piece of paper. You write scroll, like a full size piece of paper. You just write scroll of elemental ball, and whenever they start walking guys close together, you just like start unrolling it, and they're like, oh shit. Anyhow. After that, because this is sort of more corner case, because the next mission we're going to play is the Red King, and that contains demon after demon. In that particular one, I would take from the summoner control demon, even though it's on a 14, just because sometimes you take that demon and it's just amazing. If it weren't that campaign, I would just do what you did, go leap. But this
and your last one.
The last one is Bones of the Earth. Because hilariously just grabbing people.
Oh, you want to TK them and then stop them from going, so you can just run and get the treasure. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, and just the leap works well with it, and it's just I just like the visual part about putting the token next to people, because you can make the little token, just put it next to them, like it's just grabbing your leg, as opposed to being cursed. It was like, oh yeah, it's just like a thing. Yeah. This is more visceral that they can't activate properly, and they might lose in that combat.
Yeah.
And it's just even more annoying if they lose to a hand. So.
All right. So that's interesting. For me, I wanted to go all in on like super killy guy. Now there is a weakness for that, and I think we already mentioned it as one of the things you could take, blinding light. So if you buff this guy to have +10 fight, they don't have +10 will. Yeah. Right? They just have their normal will. So you might actually try to buff a barbarian with his +3 will, or take a bard, which is in one of the supplements, which I actually don't even like the fact that they exist, but okay, they exist. So which gives everyone +1 will. But if you get blinding lighted, your fight goes down to 0.
Yeah, we didn't take any dispel things, either of us. Because they're not easy. Not easy to grab.
So you buffed your guy up to insane. They blinding lighted you. Or worse, they mind control the guy, and suddenly your super good guy turns around and chops you up instead. So disgusting. Those are two major weaknesses for the build that I had. But if they don't have those spells, and there's actually a bunch of different ones,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's amazing.
All right.
So
I feel more justified not going all in, more
yeah,
better all rounding.
there's an idea, like especially when you start off, not to go all in.
Mm-hmm.
This is also one of the issues with constructs is they have zero will, so they can also be mind controlled relatively easily.
Mm-hmm.
So you super buff your constructs. If you do constructs, you probably want some sort of you probably still want to take red scroll and then red scroll for dispel,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because your dispel will be at 16. But if you have a red scroll, you can still cast it, right? And
Yeah.
you'll probably be like loading up on on scrolls of dispel, so your animated constructs don't get taken
Mm.
over and get killed.
Yeah. What I have to justify to myself though is like, let's say there's a guy who you don't want around for the treasure. Do you elemental ball him or do you bones of the earth him? Because they're both on 14 for an enchanter. And I'm just thinking like the elemental ball may not kill him outright, but the bones of the earth, if he doesn't get away, then he's probably.
He still loses one action without help from someone.
Mhm.
Like someone, if you cast Bones of the Earth successfully, someone on your opponent's side has to use an action to deal with it. Now,
Mhm.
the ones you don't want them to do are leap, because they would likely have left that guy anyway. So they're not,
Yeah.
like, you force them to use leap or transpose,
Mhm.
but they were likely have done that anyways. So they're not losing an action technically. But if they have to use a guy, like if that guy has to just fight his way out, or they
Mhm.
use another guy to fight the bones to get out, those guys are losing actions, which is very good. And then they might just fail and then take damage instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Like these are both
mostly the
spells you're
quick
going to use
spell.
on someone who's trying to get away with
Yeah.
treasure. And it's like they both have a purpose, so I'm okay
Yeah.
with having both.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably shouldn't. I should probably just do leap and dispel.
Yeah, I know. Make things more
Because I'm
boring.
just
I
like,
know.
oh, actually, you will get really screwed.
Oh, for your build. Yeah, yeah. If you're doubling
Yeah, for
down
my
on that, you
build,
have to.
yeah,
Yeah.
you probably need dispel, and then the first thing you red scroll is dispel, so that you can actually not lose when they mind control your guy. And mind control is very often taken because it's a very good spell.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Do we want
So
to go into warbands, or do you think we've gone for enough?
I think warbands for mine in general, you
Hmm.
just take really good close combat guys, so you buff them even more. So you take a
With
Templar, an
two-handed weapon
infantryman,
dudes.
yeah, two-handed
Yeah.
weapon dudes basically, or barbarian.
Yep. All right. For my build, I wanted to give the Javelineers a try because they're not one of the broken guys that are outside of the core book.
Uh-huh.
And because if I'm
They're
intending
the
to
only
sort of,
guys with range, yeah.
yeah, they're the only guys for your standard soldiers that can have ranged. And if I'm going for the try and draw guys towards my battle lines approach,
Mm-hmm.
then, you force them to get in close with TKing the treasure towards you or just casting fog and making them walk closer to have to start shooting because they can't just shoot you from further away. But the Javelineers seem like they might be able to do something in that situation. It's a way to try them out where they might work. So
I don't think they're as
you,
good for Enchanter, but
hmm,
I've used Javelineers. I used Javelineer in my last one
mhm.
because here's one thing that might dissuade you from using Javelineers. The best item for a Javelineer, first of all, is a magical item you have to find, which means enchanted weapon Javelineers is not that good. It just gives them +1 fight, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then, but the other thing is that item that makes them awesome
Hmm.
is in Maze of Malcor, so it will not be in the
Yeah,
thing that we play. So you cannot get the best Javelineer. That item is, I think I mentioned it before. It's like Bracers of Thunder or something like that. It
hmm.
gives them +1 speed, +1 fight, and +1 shoot.
Hmm. Yeah, that would have been nice, but whatever. Now they'll just get like +1 fight.
Yeah, not
Whatever.
nearly as good.
Whatever.
All
There's
right.
basic soldier. They don't have to be winners.
So you just don't want to use infantrymen anymore because you did the strength combo from before.
Yeah, this is coming down to I've already done that
Strength,
before.
enchant weapon, strength combo.
So I have to go
That's
more
enough.
corner case, which this is the next,
Fair
like, okay,
enough.
what's the next corner case for the Enchanter?
Yep, fair enough. All right. So I think that's everything. I think we also mentioned the things you've got to be worried about, especially when you're buffing guys up, right? Because the thing with enchanters, you're enchanting things to make everything buffed. You can just like we said grenade is like one of the best spells in the game. Neither of the guys that we talked about used it. That's probably, you could probably just take grenade.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You could lose telekinesis and just bring grenade.
And just spam grenade.
Yeah.
You just cast Wizard Eye, then spam grenade is a very strong thing. And then you may take curse to make people weaker, so you can hit better. Or glow, I think, would also work.
Yes.
But
you can also just grenade them more instead of glowing them. Whatever.
Yes, that's true. That is actually true. That's a good point. Yeah, you just grenade them more. So that is totally a thing. Now, the reason why we don't talk about that is because grenade is easy enough that you just take it in other schools as a good shooting attack. So you don't. The cool thing about Enchanter is the stacking of different spells, and we just wanted to choose things that you could stack, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we want to build an Enchanter.
Yeah, something
go
different.
Win on it.
Something different. Even despite the fact we didn't choose the strongest spell Enchanter. But you can totally do it. Like, take grenade, telekinesis, enchant weapon, very good. Embed enchantment, enchant weapon, grenade, animate construct, control construct, grenade. All of those are really good.
Yeah, especially if you're playing a short campaign, you don't think you're gonna like stack up the weapons. Like you're playing a 6-game campaign, maybe you don't try and like just start hoarding. But
anyway. Yeah, that's true. The things we're talking about are for longer goes. Well, technically, just super buffing a guy, you can use it at one. But grenade is very, very good for short campaigns too. Like if you have a one-off, taking grenade is a very, very good. I think if you took animate, construct, control, construct, and grenade, that's what I would probably do.
Yeah, for a short-term one, yeah, just getting yourself some better soldiers for free, getting yourself that shooting attack. Like you play a 3-game campaign. Yeah. Oh yeah, short-term is totally different than long-term build.
Yeah, brew potion, right scroll, wall, and then still take leap because you wanted to throw people in there. And because you have control construct, which can also cancel, you still have to roll for it, but animated constructs are 0 will. So when you mind control them, you can just take them back with control construct. And then you can take over whatever you find. And then I don't know what my last one would be after that.
Yeah, whatever.
Yep. Anyways. Yep. So that is Enchanter. Overall, what do you think about the Enchanter? What rating would you say? Did we say 2 wizards or 1 wizard is S tier? Only 1 wizard can be S tier?
I think we can go 2. 2's no, you want a bunch of A's, then you want
do from your heart. Do from your heart. So if it's potentially the best wizard, it's an S tier, and we'll go back. So you don't think this is the best wizard?
I don't think it's the best wizard. It has a stack of solid spells, but I don't think it has like the game breakers. So
you're saying the layering, basically. The layering of the spells, like, has really good, like a huge stack of good spells that you'll see in a lot of other builds. But when you stack them all together, it's not necessarily broken.
No, you have
to embed enchantment, enchant weapon is a pretty good combo with grenade by itself.
I know, but your strategy is just to grind them down. There's no like thing you pull off, and you just like you pull off the win if you get your thing off. This is
you
just
have
like
infinite money. Are you like if in a long campaign you have infinite money? Well, infinite money is actually good only before your opponents have caught up. Once they get enough gold, like when you have a chronomancer or a elementalist, like really high level, and then they have both elemental ball low and the time walk or time store.
Yeah.
Are you actually going to win even though you have infinite money when they're chucking double fireballs at you all the time?
No,
you might not actually win.
No, because everybody else might have their enchanted weapons too, because they've been in the campaign long enough, and they've paid their way rather than
they've paid it fairly, as opposed to you who are just enchanting your way through. That's fair. So it might seem strong in the mid game, but by the end game, it's not necessarily strong. Fair enough. So that's got to be A.
Yep. Oh, yeah. A. Definitely A.
Yeah, I'd say it's an A, and I think you're right. I guess the Elementalist. Yeah, I give it an A. I guess it competes with the Elementalist. I feel like in around that power level. It has Grenade. Grenade is a top tier spell. You can spam that, but I do like other things more. But it could end up being S. I don't know. There's like so many guys because you're sharing so many spells, right? So many of them are so close. So it might end up being S, but I think it's probably A at this point.
And I guess we gave. I at least think I gave the Chronomancer a B, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Chronomancer is B. Elementalist was, I think, A. Enchanter is A.
Yeah.
Or did we give Elementalist B? I think it was A, right? Because it has Wall and Elemental Ball by itself. It's just a great overall, like, you can do everything. All right. Well, that is the rating of Enchanter. If you guys have any, or do you want to have, sorry, before I wrap up, any other thoughts?
No, we've gone for like longer campaigns, shorter campaigns, the two different, like some of the different directions of builds.
Yeah,
I think
Enchanters always do pretty well. All right. If that's the case, then if you guys have any questions about the Enchanter or Frostgrave in general, or anything else you want to ask us, you can email us at contact@diceovereverything.com.
Yeah, or find us on Facebook. We're Dice Over Everything.
It's been Alan.
Yeah, it's been Brandon.
Bye.